Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 105 of the Watch Rolling Podcast. The Watch Rolling Podcast is a veteran-owned podcast that focuses on horology while sharing valuable resources with the watch enthusiast community. My name is Jason. I'm your host. If you're new to the pod, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Watches and Wonders is come and gone, and I'd like to discuss how to help you with your Watches and Wonders post-watch show hangover, but still feel, pretty good about everything. So Watches and Wonders is over. I'm not going to discuss the watches that released. That's been discussed ad nauseum. I just like to sit back and watch everybody go through the whole process. It's kind of like watching a train wreck, but like a good train wreck where like maybe you're crashing into a marshmallow wall instead of like a brick wall. But there's still a lot of FOMO. And I've noticed that amongst some of my watch enthusiast friends, as far as myself too, because there's some pieces that I found to be pretty interesting. But so far, we've watched every video, we've scrolled through every post. And I don't know about you, but I felt strangely empty after that. Like it's just kind of like an empty feeling as far as a watch enthusiast goes. Now, this whole episode is for the digital warriors. So let's unpack the post show blues, the doubt, and get around to how to reset after a show like this. So this is a show that you didn't attend, but you lived anyways. So there's all kinds of leaks. We saw unprecedented Rolex leaks, which normally doesn't happen. We saw some vague teasers. Shout out to my buddy Chris. He's been doing some really good teases of some watches or a watch. I think by the time this airs, you should see it, but Chris has been doing a pretty good job of being a digital teaser, and I appreciate that. Then there'll be all kinds of like drops. Like Teddy got the big drop on the Rolex Land Dweller, which, the name convention's a little weird. Watch is really cool, but name convention's kind of weird. But it feels like we actually were there when the watches got launched, and that could be kind of an interesting feeling because you get all the energy without actually having them in your hand. You can have stuff like 12 browser tabs open. People are taking all kinds of screenshots. You don't really have any plan. You're just living in the moment, like just vibing with the whole release. But we didn't go. And emotionally, we were in the front row, though. I know I was, because I'm always interested to see what comes out, especially when I don't expect there to be interesting stuff to come out. And I feel like this Watches and Wonders kind of changed that. There was some interesting stuff. There was stuff that caused what I call real conversation instead of like just conversation for conversation's sake. And, a parasocial attendance for an event is real. The online energy that's, drummed up, and we've talked about this before, whether it's the brands drumming it up via the influencers, via the marketing machine, it still equals real world feelings, right? And so after the show was over, I asked myself, so why do I feel empty? The party's over, loom shots are gone, a lot of the hands-on content's faded, and I'm left sitting here going with my own collection, wondering, do I even like these anymore? And that crept in for 1/10 of a second, which is really odd because I just got done curating my 4-piece collection. Speaking of my 4-piece collection, on the wrist today is my Omega Planet Ocean 42 millimeter. Love this thing. But I was thinking of that about my collection, and I just curated this thing down to where I had 4 pieces that I really love. And it was interesting. It was almost like, do I have too much choice? The paradox of choice by Barry Schwartz. Do I have too many options and that equals paralysis? Where you want none of them and all of them at the same time. Like you don't really want all the watches that got shown up Watches and Wonders, but then you want them all and you want them all at the same time. So I think this leads into a their wrist versus mine situation where you have creators flexing, certain models, certain I call waitlist legends. Like you're not going to get this watch anytime soon. You're going to be on a waitlist for it forever. And all this is happening while you're sitting in your kitchen with your Seiko, which is nothing wrong because I have plenty of Seikos and I sit in the kitchen with them. But then you start to think to yourself, like, man, will I be able to get one of these? Will I not be able to get one of these? And that's where the trap sets in. The trap is these highlight reels versus our reality of where we're sitting at with our watches. And then, do you start breaking out like your spreadsheet, like with the little green tax accountant, tax attorney visor, and a little number crunching machine? And do you sit there and tell yourself, like, how do I sell 3 of my watches to get the one? Should I be flipping some watches? Or do I have some boots in the closet I can sell to make a little money towards some stuff? And what I'll tell you is just to relax. You're not behind. You're just being bombarded with a lot of stuff. You're being bombarded purposely. If you discuss my other episodes, I'll include some at the end of the show that relate to this, but you're being bombarded with this stuff. And it can be overwhelming for a lot of people, right? Because you're like, man, what do I do? So my effort what I offer you is to rediscover what you love, right? And there's all different kinds of ways you can do this. You can do a 1-watch challenge. The guys at TGN are known for that. They did it for, I think it was 30 days, a 1-watch challenge. But hey, wear something old for 3 days. Wear something old for 3 days. and really reconnect with that timepiece you have. Rewatch some content, but focus on design language and not hype. Look for similar design language between what is being offered that's new versus what you already have on your wrist. I promise you're going to find stuff in common that you didn't even think about, or maybe you just forgot about. Ask yourself, would I actually wear that top 5 pick? Like if people are making lists because they're making lists, would I actually wear that? Or is it something I just want to have, my precious, like, to have it holding on to some ring that you shouldn't be having on to? Or would it just sit there? Because a watch doesn't have to be new to feel new. And there's all different kinds of ways of doing that too. You can get some straps, et cetera, et cetera. And this, I think if you consciously think about this, you can get to a point to where you have some appreciation without acquisition. You don't need to buy a new timepiece to belong to this group. And monk mode is underrated. Like you can just go away in your little monastery, quote unquote, and hang out and appreciate what you have that's old. Let everybody get the new stuff. Focus on your watches, enjoy the history, the design, and the technology of the watches you already have, and without chasing them. And I think that's important because that'll let the hype pass. And then you'd be surprised what you learn from that. Some grails that you didn't even know you had will shine brighter based off of stuff that was released that was new. Or maybe one of those new pieces will become a grail for you because you've understood kind of like where the design language is coming from. But just remember that this whole watch enthusiasm thing, the whole watch thing, whether it's collecting or just a general enthusiasm, that it's personal. It's not performative. For the majority of us, it should be really personal that we bond with what we have. And because I think for a small few, it's performative, that their watches are more a vehicle to get them where they want to go and less an accessory to wear with them on their journey. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think when this season hits and after this season and you kind of have your, watches and wonders or watch show hangover, just to remember that this whole thing is personal. It's about you and you collect and how you enjoy it and how you live with it and not performative. Now, all of us, if we have an Instagram feed, are somewhat performative. But, some of the biggest follows I've seen on Instagram just post wrist shots. You get a good wrist shot of the watch. You get to see what it looks like on a person's wrist. Maybe they explain the size of their wrist. So it's slightly performative, but for the most part, I would say it's personal. Now, what I would like to know is for you to, DM me on Instagram your post-show spiral. Like what happened? What tempted you? What grounded you? Did you even care? Because some people didn't care. I'll put a poll in the audio post, a podcast too. And then just ask yourself that and let me know. Hit me up on Instagram. Leave a message down in the show, down in the towel section down below on YouTube. Just let me know. I think it's an interesting, it's just an interesting series of thoughts to think about for this show because they happen every year. This is one of the big ones. Not everybody gets to go. And to wrap it up, like you were there, but you weren't there. I feel kind of empty. Like, am I comparing what's on my wrist to theirs? Like, should I be doing some crazy stuff to get it there? Eventually rediscovering what you love and then appreciating without actually having to buy something. And then lastly, just chilling with what you have because it's just really, really important. And I think it's important to appreciate your collection and also appreciate these shows without having an attachment based off purchasing a watch, if that makes any sense. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in to the show. Remember, at watchrolling.com, you make the watch. The watch doesn't make you.